Okay, we're putting the camera down, folks. There we go. Is that good? Yeah. Jesus, I look insane. Okay, so here's the gist. One of two things right now. First being that this room is an absolute mess. Like, it is in a state of disarray. Maybe not the wall. Well, actually, yeah, no, definitely the wall. But, you can't really see it, but just believe me, it is a travesty. It's okay, though. It's okay. Actually, I need to shut my door. Give me a second. Okay, so the second thing I wanted to mention is that I was gonna make Pomni first, but Jesus Christ. I was gonna make Pomni first, but the thing is, that's, okay, you want me to be honest? It is 1:40 a.m. right now. I don't have that time. I mean, I do, but I kind of want to be up at 11 a.m. So I figured, what's the best thing I can make right now? Yes, right now, on a Sunday morning at 1:40 a.m. Because I could have started making this at 6 p.m. on the Saturday. But that would make sense, and why would I ever do something that makes sense? So here's the gimmick. We are going to be making Gangle first. I was gonna make them in the order of which they were shown in the characters video. No, but I can't talk. I'm a mess today. Okay, so here's the thing. Luckily, right, I said that I was gonna make Gangle now because Gangle would be the easiest and probably the fastest. And I'll be honest, that's probably true. The fastest I've ever sculpted something is give or take an hour and 40 minutes. And that would be Spamton G. Spamton over on my wall on the left. I doubt you can see him, but I'm sure you've seen the video. If not, you can find it easy, trust me. So the whole thing is, right, that took about an hour and 40 minutes. This will probably not take as long because simply enough, this is gonna be just right? Get this. So the way I make my sculptures is I usually make them out of a solid base of white clay or just like whatever mix-matched colors I happen to have. Initially, I had a bunch of, sorry, I just dropped a bag of stuff. Initially, I'd start off with a multicolored ball of clay just from stuff I've cobbled together from other sculptures a while back. So little bits and pieces that I haven't used. Actually, I have a bunch of it right here, just random scraps of clay on my desk of random colors that have kind of been from other projects that I've just matched together. You cobble that together over enough time and you get a big ball like this. And while I have used this before, and I do like to still incorporate it into each thing I make because this is all stuff from my original sculptures. So I have a piece from those original ones in every single one of these sculptures right now. I like to do it as a sort of thing, like give them a little bit of a heart from the first few of them. And then if I keep adding to this ball, eventually you keep splitting it down where there's still some in there, but it keeps getting smaller and smaller, but there's still some there. I digress. The whole gimmick here is that initially I start with a base and then I build onto that after the fact. Because say if I want to make a sculpture like the big red one back there, if I'm going to want to make that, why would I make the inside out of red if you're never going to see it? Obviously, you're going to want to make it out of something that's inside, not really all that expensive like the colored clay, and then you add color to it after the fact. Now, a lot of people I've seen will end up actually painting their sculptures, which honestly, that's just a form of preference. I can paint them, and I have actually. As a matter of fact, I have this one here. This is one of the only ones I ever fully painted, and Mr. Wolf, I think it came out well. Of course, I didn't film this one, which I absolutely should have when the movie came out. That would have been a fantastic idea, especially because they did the follow me eyes. That was definitely fun. Gimmick is though, yeah, I can paint them. I know I can. I have the ability to, but I find it more fun to just mix the clay colors. That to me is what I find to be always entertaining, even if it is so much effort. Like, believe me, it's so much effort. Because here's the thing, whenever you have to mix clay colors, you are mixing them like paint, and you have to know color theory. And actually, I don't know color theory. I intuitively know it, but I have absolutely no clue what I could tell you concept-wise. All I know is that if you give me a color and you tell me to make it out of clay, there's a good chance I probably could. Just straight up stare at it, and I will say, what would this probably break into? That's not necessarily a skill I could just, like, give through the screen, and I get that entirely. That's fine. So if you needed to maybe look up some things to see, like, hey, what colors work to get this color, that is totally fine. Or if you wanted to do it with paints and that's easier for you, also totally fine. In that case, you just substitute my stuff instead of putting a like colored sheet of whatever clay you want over the top. Paint it. Same gimmick at the end of the day, you get the idea. So bringing this all back to Gangle, right? I would make that base out of something, and then I would normally add stuff onto it. But the reason I brought up the Spamton one in the first place is that normally I would make that base of white clay, then I build stuff on top of it, and then I would basically just you know, put that all together after the fact. Yeah, so here's where that idea goes down the drain. See, Gangle is a interesting character in that the reason I want to make them first is the fact that, to put it bluntly, it is like Gangle is completely hollow, like down to their core, like literally fully hollow. This is Gangle. They're made of ribbon. It's ribbon. It's just ribbon. Now, while I'm looking at this, I absolutely know how I could do this right here. What just fell? Oh, sorry, I have an anvil down there, which I know is an insane statement, but I have an anvil down here, and something just fell on it. It was this hot glue stick, and it made a loud bang noise, or at least a metal ding. I'm digressing. You get my idea. Yeah, so the thing is, this is Gangle, right? So I realized to myself, I couldn't think of a few ways to do this, and I have this image here that's, I found it, I was just scrolling through the videos, because I want to make all these before the 13th, before the thing comes out. Yeah, so it's the 22nd, and that did not happen, so, yeah, my bad. I am editing this video right now, and I have only made Gangle. My bad, something's kind of got in the way. Sorry about that. I'll do better later. So this was from the official actual trailer that came out most recently. This photo was when just a random little scene through it. Found a screenshot of Gangle. Boom, here it is. So off the bat, I might have to do a few changes. Namely that the legs, the legs are not connected to the body. The legs are gonna have to be connected. You know, which to be honest, things could be worse. You know, I mean, I would, believe me, if I could defy physics and make this actually float, I would. But until I can figure out how to pull in the particle accelerator, it's not. That's just not feasible. But I do have a way of doing it. Now, I'm thinking, of course, I think the mask I can totally do out of clay. That's fine. That's simple. I could probably 3D print it, and that might be easier. But those layers are going to be pretty visible, and honestly, I don't want that. So I'm just gonna stick with sculpting it and showing you how to do that. Now, the other thing is something that is going to be a very, very specific material to get. And while I know that is maybe a bit of a disconnect, I will say it just makes it easier. So if you're able to get it, then please, by all means, do. You might be able to get away with doing it with like construction paper, but I don't really know how well that would work. So instead of using strips of paper or strips of ribbon in this case, I'm doing it out of steel.
Steel, you say? Why, you said steel? What? You can't do steel? I don't have a furnace. I don't have an anvil. I can't make it out of steel.
Don't worry.
Steel sheet.
Now, I know that's a really specific thing. I get that fully. I just happen to have a bunch of random projects and bits and bobs of things that I've needed steel sheet for, so I've just got a bunch of it lying around. Namely, actually, I have this, you know what, come on a walk with me about 2 feet this way. I have a drawer just full of scrap steel from just various projects where I've cut them up into random pieces. This is just stuff that I've had lying around. This is terrible cuts, by the way. You can see where I put all the scissor marks, and by scissor I mean tin snips. I think I have them back there somewhere. Point is though, yeah, it's steel sheet, and this is you can get it in a very big form, which sorry about that. I have full sheets of it. I have one that was somewhere here. I think I've used a lot of it, but yeah, you can use just straight up sheets of this stuff that I've you can get it at your local hardware store, I'm sure. It's not terribly expensive either for a really big piece of it. I got it for 20 bucks. And you are not gonna need that much. Like not by even a long shot. You're gonna even need you're not even gonna need like a tenth of it. Not even close. You could literally ask them for like a 2-foot strip of like an inch wide, and you'd have enough to make like 4 of these. So if you're able to get like just the smallest amount of it, you're good. Trust me. So with that out of the way, let me explain what I'm going to do here. So Gangle's made of ribbon, right? We've established this. My idea is cut a bunch of little steel ribbons, like very thin, probably about the thinness of this top bit right here, all the way down, and it would be, give or take, just a uniform long strip of steel that I could most likely wrap into different shapes, and then I could do that for each leg, and then the little central section that I can then wrap into the arms. Actually, as a matter of fact, I might very well be able to do it the same as I do with my regular sculptures, and I can explain that too. Normally what I do is, for my sculptures, I take this stuff, just a regular aluminum wire. It is a specific armature wire, actually. I think the brand Craft Smart sells it. At my local craft stores, Michael's or Hobby Lobby, they have it just fine, but you can get it there, and it's I think this is 2-3 millimeter armature wire, one of those two, and usually I just bend it into an internal skeleton for my sculptures with a pair of needle nose pliers. Yeah, so gimmick is I bend this into different shapes and I get a little skeleton out of it, which I then build the clay on top of to give it a central structure, because otherwise the clay in the oven, it softens initially, but then once you bake it and take it out of the oven and it cools down, that's when the clay hardens. Clay, so to speak, because polymer clay is more so a plastic than it is a clay, but it has about the same consistency and it never dries, so it's very easy to work with. Point is though, this stuff is usually what I build on the inside, and the way I end up doing that is I could visualize it by having...
Hey, it's me again. So I'm just gonna cut out like a minute of explanation here and just cut to me actually like making it out of the wire, because I figured that's just, it's pointless to not do that. So let's do that now.
So if I were to make that as an actual thing here, I could say, for example, this would be the foot starting. I would then go up. It would then go up here. This is the torso. Yeah, you following? This follows here. This comes out, and then it forms the arm, which this is way too long, but you get the gimmick. So say here, this is one half of it, right? I would then make a second one of these that would then be a mirrored version of this on this side, and then you would have effectively two of them right here. And then in the middle, I would wrap around another piece of wire that wraps around the two, so it combines the two together to make one full piece. And then when this wraps around all the way up, it then can stick out here and I can cut it, and that forms the base of the head. So 3 pieces of wire overall, one on this side, one on this one that's also mirrored, so it's the same as this on that side, and then another one that just coils around the center up to the top. Cut it, leave it, boom, you got a nice little armature. Now, Gangle, from what I could tell, seems to have a very similar build to this. Take a look at this photo here. This is very similar. Rather, instead of me having something that goes up this into the arm, you know that feeling when like your entire idea just unravels in front of you? That was me just now. Okay, different plan. I just realized that if I were to do that, there's nothing actually holding that wire together. Okay, second plan. Instead, I'm gonna have one wire on the left leg, because in my eyes, that looks like, if anything, this is gonna come up here, and I imagine this could connect to this. You following me? Is this even in frame? I guess I'll find out in editing later, won't I? To me, it looks like this left leg here could go up and connect to the torso down through this little connection right here. So I bet you I could probably have this go up and then start coiling around up there, going into one of the arms. All right, I'm gonna time lapse this while probably listening to something. I don't know what yet. I'll get back to you. Okay, so I got the main coil done. I cut 2 very long strips of the steel sheet, and then I ended up splicing them together at the center by taking a little tiny piece of it and kind of just like crimping it around itself so I could kind of seal that shut. And I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this, say, the front of it, and then I'm actually going to do the little, because I know that the ribbon actually has like a little snip in it on each end, so it kind of has like a little flare. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip that right here to make that little V shape, and then the legs I'm going to connect as 2 separate pieces. And I know that Gangle doesn't really have feet, but I kind of have to make little flat bits on the bottom, or else I'm gonna have to put this thing onto a base. And honestly, I don't want to engineer it to do that. And to be fair, I don't want to really make a lot of these ones with the base, because let's just be real, they look more cool as their own standalone things. So I think just adding those little flat bits on the bottom will make it make more sense. In the show, I get it, but then again, the legs are also kind of floating, so you gotta bear with me here. Oh God, I just realized I still have no idea how I'm going to do Kane. Oh, he's always floating. Oh, no. That future problem. All right, back to the time lapse. Okay, so as far as I can tell, this is going pretty good. Now, from what I can tell, this actually is working like shockingly well. I mean, the whole gimmick so far that I've got is Gangle kind of has like these little like bits of the feet in the front that kind of curl forward, and I actually managed to do that. They just kind of wrap back around backwards, but that provides enough, you know, space to balance things out, and the clamps are working decently well. The thing's holding itself up. The way I did that is I kind of had a thing where I wanted to, I realized if I just clamp it over like this to hold that in, then the whole thing will kind of fall out beneath itself. So instead what I did was each leg, I bent it in a way that it was like this, and then this would go back up to clamp it in. So each leg sits on it like this, and then I clamp them together. Because in that way, the whole body is now sitting inside these little notches, and then after the fact, I clamp them all shut. That provides friction so that I can basically have enough pressure holding it all together, and then all I really have to do is just kind of slot that in and make sure it's all nice and lined up so it can stand up properly. Now the same gimmick is going to happen for the arms, because I don't really need it to be in any specific position. I can kind of just have them hanging down at the sides, and then for the head, I think I can just kind of wrap something around up the front here, curl around here, or I could do it in the back, which I actually probably will do. So I will have the headpiece connecting right up into here, and that should be good. Although I do realize I'm going to have to use more pieces of metal than I thought, but that's okay. I think it's mainly just a thing I wanted to figure out what to do as I went, because I didn't really know what to do up until I was kind of doing it. So in total, it's going to be, give or take, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of metal, plus or minus a few little bits to connect it here and there. So 1, 2, 3, probably 4, 5, 6, 7 connections. So 7 tiny little bits of metal that are give or take about this long, and then bent in the middle to kind of clamp around with the pliers. So 7 of those and about, give or take, 6 longer pieces of metal. That's what I currently think anyhow, but you can probably recheck the time lapse, and I'll check it as well, but I'm pretty sure that's what I got. All right, back to time lapsing. Okay, so for the evening, I believe I am done. All right, so here's what we got. So here's the body. This is the thing I came up with. This is a completely sheet metal skeleton, like down to its core. It is literally just sheet metal, all clamped together, nice and done. It's pretty good, I think. Stands up. It's all good and balanced, and you know it kind of stays upright. Might bend this back up a little bit, but I can flex it a little bit. It should be good. And then as for the mask, I took a sheet of white clay that I rolled out from a little pasta machine here, which, while I do know it's a bit of a specific tool to have, you could honestly probably roll it out with something as simple as like a paint can, or probably something even a paint can, as if you're gonna have like a full gallon paint can lying around. Here's a cup. You could probably use a cup. Literally just anything flat you can roll with, that would work perfect. So I rolled out a thin little sheet of it, and I cut it into something that would be similar to a semicircle shape, just like a cut down the middle, and then I kind of rolled it up over my thumb to do the shaping for it. So I did something along the lines of this, and then I wrapped around the edges here to make that little beveled shape without actually fully bending it around. So this gave it a semi-curved look. I might shape it a little more because I realized that it might come to slightly more of a point at the bottom, but you know, I'll do that later. Overall though, I think this is the correct thing. So I'm going to bake this individually, and then I'm going to leave this as is because I'm just going to paint this on its own, and that should be good. And then I think I can paint the face onto this, and we should be good. But since it is 3 a.m., I am going to put this away, and I'm going to go to sleep. So I'll see you when I see you. Okay, so this camera basically died and is effectively out of storage at this point, so I'll fix that in a bit. But kind of long story short, I bent up the armature a bit more, and I retwisted the wire, because let's be honest, it was very, very not coiled, and that's, you know, that's no good. So long story short, I basically got it twisted up into the way I think would at least look good. And now it's time to paint. We paint this red and we paint this white, because that's just, no, that's not very good. So we got that all nice and done, and then we paint the details on, and then I put that on there by making some more sheet metal stuff. So that's it. Yeah. All right. So it's been a few days again, and I have finished it up. And here we go, folks. And we move up in about 3, 2, 1, and here we are. All right. Let's be real. I think I think this came out good. I'm quite happy. I'm very happy with how this turned out. So here's the thing. The last thing that you saw with this is that this was all silver. There was no head, and it was not this shiny. So let me give you the rundown of how exactly it got to here, and I'm going to give the best descriptor I've got. So I took some red acrylic paint. I painted all of that up. I got it all nice and shiny because I took some of my clay polish right over here, and I used a paintbrush, and I polished that after the fact. So after this thing was all nice and coiled up, I painted it red, and then I polished it. As for the mask itself, I said I painted it white. I then drew on the details, so that's kind of just a thing that it would be your preference. You look at whatever expression you want, you copy it, you paint it directly on there. How did I fix it on there? Well, let me tell you. Right around the back of this thing, I used some hot glue, and I just glued it on. How's everything affixed? Well, you have all of your little bits and bobs that I have clamped directly over the body of this thing. So I used some pliers and absolutely just crimped everything on. So as you can see, everything is nice and clamped over each individual part. So you have, you know, that there, you have that for each arm, and you have that for each leg, with each a tiny little piece of sheet metal that I went and then clamped over top of that too. So effectively, for the most part, you have one central coiled spring, and then you have one piece of metal for each leg that's then clamped over each individual tiny part of, you know, just the sides of the body. So the gimmick is central spring, one piece of metal for each leg, one piece of metal for the neck, and then you clamp it all around each individual part where you think that those connections would be. Yeah, one for each arm too. I don't know how exactly I keep forgetting to say this. One bit of metal for each leg, one bit of metal for each arm, one for the neck, and then of course the central coil. And then you got a couple little bits that clip on, and that's the gimmick. You paint it all up nice and red, then you paint it nice and white on the mask, and you paint it black, and then there you go. Bing bada boom, you've got a Gangle. And of course, to make the mask, you got your little polymer clay, then you shape around your thumb like I mentioned in one of the videos before. And that right there is how you get a nice little happy little creature. And I'm incredibly glad I've got her. So that, I think that should do it. Now, I know one thing I will say is sometimes I mean all the time, I'm notoriously bad for not giving, or at least in my eyes, I feel like my descriptors for some of my crafts are a little bit lackluster and can be a little bit confusing at times. So the one time I will ever ask for anyone to leave a comment, I will say, if I could do better, let me know what I can do. I don't know if that was a voice crack or if I just sounded stupid. Yes, please feel free to let me know any way I can improve to explain how I do my things, because I'm totally happy to do that. It's weird, I know. I explain things in a very silly way, in a very convoluted way. This is like a 20-ish minute video all leading up to this, so yeah, I get it. I completely get it. So feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to improve. Other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic day, whatever time it is. I'd say good evening. It's evening right now, and I don't want to admit what time it is, but I can tell you firsthand that I'm very glad that you came along this little journey with me, and I'm excited for you to be along for the rest of them, because there is going to be a video for every single character. That is going to be so much time, but I don't care, because it's going to be fun. Other than that, I'll see y'all whenever I see ya, and I'll see you in the next, I'm not going to say I'll see you in the next video, that's stupid, but I will say, I hope that you'll be here and see the next video. Alright, I'm out of here. Have a good night. See ya.